are always superficial arguments that can be made against it, going from parking to symbolic values, but underneath it is clearly suspicion and hostility towards the Muslim community. On a level that we don't see explicitly, at least anymore, or in most places, as to the Black or Hispanic community, but very similar to what they have experienced in the past. Shouldn't issues such as segregation, as to community support, as to the level of solidarity that a community provides, shouldn't that be part of adequate housing also? Shouldn't our standards for what adequate is include something having to do with community as well as affordability and physical quality? The other question I wanted to raise with you, I think I know the answer to the first question. It ought to be. The second question I don't know the answer to, and it has to do with the Tea Parties in the US and the far right in other countries. There was an incident a year ago on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange when a well-known national radio commentator went on what has become known as the Santelli rant. And he argued against very moderate proposals by the federal government to help people who are in danger of mortgage foreclosure. And what he said to the members of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange is that by helping such people in danger of foreclosure, the government is promoting bad behavior. This is America. How many of you people want to pay for your neighbor's mortgage that has an extra bathroom they don't need and can't pay their bills? Is that a position that could be explicitly, openly stated in the rest of the world? It's something that is now acceptable in public discourse here. And it strikes me as strange. In the European countries, I know Germany best, when there are limitations on welfare expenditure or when there are cutbacks in benefits, the argument is always, we would like to be able to do that, but we can't. And here is somebody saying, we don't want to do that. We shouldn't be doing that. Let people worry about themselves, and if we can get ourselves decent housing, to hell with them. I think there is something that needs to be addressed here that underlies the Tea Party movement here that is very dangerous, that I think can only be explained psychologically, through Freudian analysis maybe, but there is something, it seems to me, perhaps in a global picture that's wrong. And I'd like to get your reaction.
Thank you very much, Peter. First of all, I want to thank you, Peter. When I started to being a rapporteur, my second month, I decided to take the issue of the financial crisis and the right to adequate housing, and I didn't know anything about financial crisis, and I was not a specialist on housing policies, and Peter Marcuse helped me a lot, sending me articles and books and references so I could start to work on that. And I want to publicly thank you for that. First of all, what is the right to adequate housing? I'm gonna do an answer which has to do with the way the adequate housing is defined by the international documents and legal treaties, and basically based on not only the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which is the main base, but also on the comments that were developing that further in order to be more clear what is an adequate housing. And all of that, if you are interested in knowing more and the legal basis of that, you can refer. Now I have a website, which is in English as well, righttohousing.org, and all the information about the components, the legal issues, the missions, the reports are there. So besides the physical characteristics of the house, means the idea of protection against heat, against cold, against rain, against which is the physical conditions, the availability of services like running water, sewage, waste collection, and electricity, public lighting, which are the services that should be attached to the house. This is also part of the physical outlook of the house. Besides also affordability, which is the main component. Everybody must have an adequate housing despite the economic condition. I'm not saying that everybody must own a house, but everybody must have access to adequate housing for himself and his family. So those two components maybe are the most known, but there are very many others. I want to point out one which I think it's crucial: location. Location. Adequate housing means an access point to an adequate standard of living, which means that depending on where you live, you can or cannot have access to jobs, to work, to resources to live on, but also to the overall network of services that exist in the urban fabric as well as in the territory as a whole. So means access to education, to cultural opportunities, to healthcare, to leisure, to sport. And this has a lot to do with location, with the fact that the house should be located in a way that people that live there have access to job, income, work, and living conditions. Another aspect is cultural adequacy. And I think it's a very important concept, because I have seen in different missions housing policies that look like deposit of people, people in boxes, and not really neighborhoods. The idea that low-income people, because in order not to spend too much money, so can live like in metal containers. In South Africa, I have seen those. People call them microwave. Guess why? Metal containers, 25 square meters. It's not adequate. I mean, and that links to the point that Peter raised, which is, I think it's part of location and cultural adequacy component. The fact that everybody deserves to live in and to profit of the best cities have, if we're talking about urban setting. And the best a city can have is its multicultural characteristics. It's the multicultural opportunity, because the more multicultural, the more open, the more opportunity, the more heterogeneous